more detailed portion or the detailed part, which is the stakeholder engagement and mobilization in CIS. So sabi nila, this is a very important topic as well kasi we will look into how bringing together diverse stakeholders from NGOs, government agencies, NGAs, and LGUs can transform climate data into something that is actionable, na magagamit talaga. So we always think that ang end goal natin is to help our farmers and fisher folks get information so they can have better decisions, make better decisions and actions towards the climate change challenges. Okay? So the first thing is a rundown of what are the things that will be discussed. We'll be discussing what is a stakeholder, what are the steps in stakeholder engagement, and then the basics of IEC or extension work, which will lead into the steps to establish a behavior change. And lastly, we'll be discussing the stakeholder engagement model through community of practice. Nakikita niyo yung picture? Siya si Mang Juan. Remember Mang Juan in our workshop yesterday? Sir Peter, kiniin namin sa AI yung data na na-develop natin. Mang Juan being a 55-year-old farmer and a fisher folk, di ba? Sino yung asawa niya? Si Ma'am Maria. How old was she? Ano? 45. Tapos di ba may tatlo silang anak? Isang lalaki, dalawang lalaki, isang babae yata yung natandaan ko, and then kiniin din namin yung mga ages. So, yan yung na-generate na image from the data that we gathered yesterday from all of you. Sa inyo galing yan di ba? So, yun. So, medyo Asian iba. so, di ba, we can use digital tools in generating this. Nakakatuwa lang ipakita yung information na na-generate ni Sir Pete kahapon. Okay? So remember that he is one of our stakeholders, di ba? So kailangan natin siyang kilalanin. So ano bang ibig sabihin ng stakeholder? It is defined as individuals, groups, or organizations that have an interest or affected by a particular project, decision, or issue. So sa case natin, ang ating particular issue is climate change, di ba? At ang interest natin is to provide appropriate climate information services. So these stakeholders are also very influential, can influence or be influenced by the outcome of the process. And then they also have varying degrees of power, interest, and involvement. And they are typically identified to ensure that their needs, expectations, and concerns are considered in the decision making. So talagang generally, hindi siya homogeneous, di ba? Iba-iba ang ating mga stakeholders. Kaya po lagi namin ine-emphasize, iba-iba din ang mga knowledge products na ipoproduce ninyo. Hindi talaga po pwede na lahat ay for the general audience. Diba? So, kailangan po muna, pag ganito pong hindi pare-parehong ating stakeholders, ano ang kailangan natin gawin? We have to identify them one by one. So, what are the types of stakeholders? We have 5. We identified 5. The first one are the primary user groups. Ito na yung ating goal. Ito yung ating tutulungan ang mga farmers and fisher folk whose lives were affected by a climate issue. Second would be the government agencies and policymakers, kayo po yun, mga LGUs, who work on the field for climate action. Third would be the educational institutions. We have the ISU or ISU and its respective campuses and other academe here sa Isabela that can provide climate data, forecasts, predictions, and technical knowledge to the local community. And of course, we always value the contributions of NGOs and civil groups and the private sector, especially the private sector because it's usually where we get our funds. So sa amin po sa academe, we always do things based on a theory or a model. So isi-share din po namin sa inyo kasi para po alam nyo din po na yung mga aming pinagagagawa at pinagtatatanong sa inyo ay based on a model. We based our stakeholder engagement process from Jeffrey. So this is a model that outlines 7 steps for engaging stakeholders effectively. So sabi dito po, there are 7 steps pero medyo minodify namin kasi para mas maikli, which is yun din po yung magandang aspect when you apply a model or a theory, you can refine or revise based on your needs. So sa amin po, naging 5 stages. Yung first would be planning. Kay Jeffrey kasi nasa stage 1, planning to identify what the stakeholders want to achieve in the construction of our CIS. So talagang pupunta tayo sa grassroots, pupunta tayo sa farmers para tanungin, ano po ba sir ang kailangan yung information para makatulong po kami sa inyong pagsasaka o sa inyong pangangisda. And then second, we need to understand the stakeholders' wants and needs. Paano mo siya malalaman kung hindi ka makikipag-usap sa kanila? Hindi po pwedeng nasa office po tayo at ite-text na lang po natin kung sino, kung ano, or iisipin natin ang kailangan nila. So we need to have constant communication and collaboration with them. And then third, we need to organize a central management. Ito yung kailangan nating mag-organize ng people who are willing to dedicate time and resource as well as effort. And then fourth, same with Jeffrey, trust is a very important component of our stakeholder engagement. Kailangan may trust building process dito kasi kailangan naniniwala kayo sa proyekto at naniniwala din po kayo doon sa mga tao doon sa research team. Kasi pag walang trust ang isang farmer or fisher folks, you cannot get all the information that you would need eh. And then sayang naman yung effort nyo kung hindi rin nila magagamit kung ano man yung CIS or knowledge product na ibibigay nyo sa kanila. And we see this as a continuing process. So dapat palaging from the start, sinasabi nila yung co-creator, from the start, involved na sila sa plano. Ipe-present mo na, sir, may project po kami, ito po yung aming gagawin. And then pag may results na, pupunta ka ulit sa kanila, sir, ito po yung results ng project namin. Tama po ba itong siyempre, isa-summarize natin, pwede nating infographic, di ba, gawa ng tables. Tama po ba yung data na nakuha namin as a group? So, yun ay part of the trust building na issues or trust building process na amin laging ina-apply. And of course, kasama na rin din yung consultation kasi we need to be responsive to the changing needs ng mga farmers at fisher folks. Okay, next slide please. So, aside from the Jeffrey model, meron din kaming the P process by Pete Rowe. Ginamit ito ng John Hopkins Bloomberg School for Public Health. So essentially, sinasabi lang nito na to effectively change the behavior of a person, kailangan din na merong active involvement at saka yung process of communication. So nag-evolve po yung process eh. Ito po yung dati. And then the recent one was in 1997. 5 steps po. You inquire, you design a strategy. The third would be you create and test it. Lagi po tayo nagpe-pre-test. So yung mga i-develop nyo pong mga knowledge products, halimbawa nakagawa kayo infographics, ipi-pre-test nyo po sa ilang farmers o sa ilang kaopisina kung naiintindihan po ba nila ito. And then of course, you mobilize and monitor and hindi nawawala po yung evaluation and evolve, meaning you change whatever IEC or extension activity that you develop kung merong mga tweaks na kailangang ayusin. To establish behavior change by using a combination of IEC activities, ito yung mga recommended steps ng John Hopkins School. So first, you analyze. Lagi po nating sinasabi yan. Alam ko po, pasensya na po, but we know that reiteration is a good thing. We always analyze the needs of your audience, ano yung knowledge, attitudes, perception, and practice concerning the problem. Second, we design strategies for conducting extension work. And then third, we create and test materials, di ba? And then fourth, we mobilize people and monitor the implementation of the IEC extension work. And in this aspect po, very critical din po that when we mobilize people, yung willing silang magbigay ng time at saka effort at saka resources nila. Kasi Hindi naman lahat ay pwedeng may bayad, hindi po ba? So also, we also give incentives for people who will be involved in CIS work. Kahit maliit na bagay po, and as much as we can, it would be nice if you would give them rewards and incentives. And then the fifth step is evaluating the effectiveness of the IEC extension work and pre-planning. So essentially po, makikita nyo po na maraming similarities yung kay Jeffrey at saka kay Petro na process. So it validates na yung mga steps na ginagawa po natin for CIS are good things kasi naka-anchor po siya sa dalawang theoretical models. Okay? So for the project, next slide, yung community of practice na lagi po namin sinasabi from day one, ay sinasabing the perfect, hindi naman perfect, we see it as the platform para naman po yung ating climate information services ay magkaroon ng continuous knowledge sharing at ma-enhance yung capacity building ng ating mga LGUs, ng mga NGAs. Kasi kung makikita nyo po yung ating visual, ito po yung kabuuan ng proyekto at sila po yung mga partners natin. The state universities and colleges, the national government agencies and local government units, and of course, our farmers and fisher folks. So the COP for Agriculture and Fisheries, CIS is conceptualized para po ma-involve tayong lahat. Kaya po lahat kayo ay kasama namin from last year hanggang ngayon. Kasi gusto po namin makuha kung ano po yung kailangan nyo at kung ano rin po yung aming maibibigay na knowledge or capacity for everyone. During the capacity needs assessment, may na-identify po tayo na agencies that provide information. Kasi in the discussion po dito sa stakeholder engagement, there are the producers, translators, disseminators, and users. So you would be seeing now the logos of na-identified dun sa training needs assessment. Sino ba yung mga producers? DA, Pag-asa, NIA, ISU. So some of you, nagka-cut across ang roles. Some of you are dun lang sa nandun sa disseminator at user like and the LG, di ba? So, doon po ang LGUs, tama po ba? So, most of you are the disseminators and users of the information. And then, next slide. So, after that po, magkaka-workshop tayo. This will be one of the good basis for the workshop outputs. But before that, let me summarize kasi alam naman namin po na this is more of a refresher for everyone. So in summary, understanding how stakeholders function within a community of practice for CIS in agriculture and fisheries is essential to align goals, build trust, and achieve the shared outcomes. And kailangan po talaga ng collaborative approach among us as members of the COP para enhance po yung process of co-creation and management of CIS. And lastly, the COP for Agriculture and Fisheries, CIS, must be responsive to the changing needs of the people for accountability, complete and holistic to ensure addressing the multiple needs of the locals. And it should also be realistic. So ano po bang gagawin natin as mga LGUs? For the action points, please continue to ask and connect with farmers and fisher folks para po ma-identify natin yung needs and ensure that all their needs or majority of their needs, expectations, and concerns are considered. Second, we suggest that you regularly evaluate whether the CIS tools are accessible and practical for end users. Sabi nga natin, meron pong mga ibang LGUs, tama po ba, walang signal, walang mobile signal, so hindi po natin masenda ng FB message, hindi po tayo makapag-create ng GC, so meron pong ganon. So we have to address such constraints, like meron ding hindi maalam pang gumamit ng cellphone, low digital literacy, or poor infrastructure, yun nga po yun, wala pang available mobile spot sa kanilang area. And then third, kindly organize regular dialogues and knowledge sharing events to foster trust align goals, and identify collective priorities among your CIS stakeholders. So remember na kami po sa academy, sinasabi po namin hindi po kami ang expert. Yun pong mga farmers at fisher folks po ang expert. Kasi sila po yung merong knowledge and skills that were honed over time. Kasi most often naman po, more than 15, 20, all of their lives, farmers na sila eh. So sila po talaga yung nakakaalam at nakakaalam kung ano po ang nangyayari sa kanilang mga kabuhayan.